Hello and welcome to Real Watchers Movie Club. My name is Garrett.
And I'm Kevin.
And we are your hosts. Movie Club is the show where we pick a movie and discuss about it every week, just like a book club. On today's show, we're covering the animated fantasy film Howl's Moving Castle. Our thoughts and more coming up on Movie Club. Released in 2004, Howl's Moving Castle was directed by Hayao Miyazaki and stars Chieko Baisho, Takuya Kimura, and Akihiro Miwa. Sorry if there's any mispronunciation of those names. When an unconfident young woman is cursed with an old body by a spiteful witch, her only chance of breaking the spell lies with a self-indulgent yet insecure young wizard and his companions in his legged, walking castle. It is currently ranked 159 on IMDb's Top 250, and it currently has a 4.3 out of 5 on Letterboxd and is ranked number 110 on its Top 250. It was nominated for one Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. Before we dive into our thoughts, though, we do want to issue a quick spoiler warning for the film. We're going to be talking about everything that happens in it, all the big plot developments, characters, and all that kind of wonderful stuff. And we don't want to ruin the film for you. And as I'm pretty sure, we both think that you should go and watch this movie as quick as you can. So make sure you go ahead and watch it. You can come back here. You can pause it. Come back. You're not going to offend us. No worries. But stay tuned to the end of the show to figure out what movie we're covering next week, because I hope it's going to be a good one. Okay, Kevin, so Howl's Moving Castle was your pick, and what made you choose Howl?
I think I watched this one before, so rewatching it and giving it my full review. I wanted to do it again, and I didn't know it was on the top 250, so might as well watch a great movie again, and that's why I picked it.
Easy enough. That's all you need to know. Yeah, I absolutely... this is a movie that I hadn't seen actually for a very long time. Actually, at all. I had only seen it kind of in recent months, and so it was really one of those things where I was kicking myself because I hadn't seen it sooner. And that happens with all Miyazaki movies that I watched for the first time. It happened when I watched Spirited Away for the first time. The first film that I ever watched of Studio Ghibli's, which was Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. That one I kicked myself over. Like literally every single movie they've ever made, I have been like, why didn't I watch this sooner? Why didn't I listen to people? Because I only started watching anime and kind of anime film in the last 2-3 years. And so... or more seriously, I should add. And so this was such a pleasant surprise. This movie is, I think, of the ones that I really admire from Miyazaki. Obviously, there's the big three, which I would say is Howl's Moving Castle, Spirited Away, and Princess Mononoke. I feel like this is the lighthearted one of the three.
Yeah. It's not. It does take a serious toll or a serious story, but it's very I don't want to say kidified, but it's very simple, and it's not as fantasy as some of his other work. It
feels on brand with the rest of his work, because they are they're all whimsical. A lot of them have fantasy elements to them. This one I would say is probably the most fantasy of them all. Like obviously with witches and wizards and all that kind of wonderful shenaniganery. I don't even know if that's a word, but it's just it is so much more. Like the tone is the thing that strikes me about this one. It's positive. It's never like scary. It's just whimsical. It's charming, and I think that, like, honestly, I do have a problem with parents if they take their kids to go see something like Emoji Movie or, like the new Garfield movie or something like that, instead of watching a film like this, which I feel like anyone could love this movie. And I don't know why more people obviously it is a favorite film. A lot of people love this movie and very highly regard it. But like, you talk to anyone who doesn't watch anime films and they won't know what it is, which I think is really unfortunate.
Or sometimes I think they've heard of it, but they haven't experienced the movie. Hearing something and experiencing it are two different things.
Yes, I think obviously, I think everyone has heard of Studio Ghibli at this point.
Hmm.
Everyone has seen Totoro as the icon for the studio. I would
Yep.
say most people are familiar, at least with the films, like having have seen an image or a screenshot from one of them at some point.
Hmm.
But I think, like, of all the films, I think that this one is the best jumping off point. It's
Yeah.
not too weird. It's
Hmm.
not, a lot of people say Ponyo is a great one to start with. I think Ponyo gets a little too weird for its own britches at some points. Spirited Away is another really good one as well, but it does get a little lost in. Let me rephrase. I can see it getting lost on some people because of its heavy adherence to Japanese culture, which is not
Hmm.
something that a lot of people know about. Whereas
Yeah.
Howl's Moving Castle, like, this is the closest thing we get to like a Harry Potter like film
Hmm.
from Miyazaki and from Ghibli, and I think that this film will appeal to a more wider range of people, and that's why I've been recommending Howl's Moving Castle as the one people start with.
Yeah, I mean, going off of your Ponyo statement, I haven't watched that one yet, so I can't say if that is affects this in any way. But yeah, it's very, like you said, it's wizardy, and a lot of people would like this if you like Harry Potter or what's the Newt Scamander movie?
Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
You really enjoy this. I mean, and it doesn't dabble too much into the wizardry or anything like that. It's very subtle, and you notice it, but it doesn't get all confusing, which is really nice. And it really keeps it simple enough that anybody can watch this movie.
Yes, and you don't need to know a lot about it. You don't need,
Mm-mm.
you don't have to have read the book that it's based on. Like, it's just a really fun time,
Hmm.
and it is, you know, and I think it's better because of it.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously, I'm not saying that the film is bad by any
No.
means, or, or that, like, any other ones are bad. But I think it's just, I think that the way that it gets the tone correct,
Hmm.
it's just perfectly done, and I think that goes a long way into recommending it for people. I think, like,
Yeah.
if someone is going to go into the top 250s of Letterboxd or IMDb, this is one of the ones, like, in the top, like, the first five, not like the top five, but like the first
Mhm.
five, that I would say go in with this, see how you feel. Or maybe even like last week with Night of the Hunter, this is a
Hmm.
good tone film. Like,
Yeah.
the tone is just so wonderful throughout this movie.
Yeah.
Like, again, it's just
Exactly.
whimsical and charming.
Yeah. Well, and I like how you said don't put it in, like, it's not the top 5 of IMDb's. That's not what we're saying. It's this would be our top pick for animation of the top 5. Like, if we have certain categories, hey, this is on IMDb's 250. What is your number one that you would want me to watch if I was not into anime watching? And
Yeah,
that I would say How's Moving Castle, the number one. Put
100%.
it up there. Put it up there for a week and see if you like it.
I Yeah, I would say it's good for people of all ages.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and I think, like, there are other films that I think that, depending on the person, right? Like,
Hmm.
for instance, Nadia. If I was talking to Nadia, not that she would watch an anime film, but, like, if she were to try to, I would say,
Hmm.
like, Perfect Blue would be a better first step
Yeah.
because it's more in line with what she likes,
Hmm.
as opposed to, the more, like, the fantasy or the whimsical. And I think it depends on the person, but I think for most people, arguably for most audiences, Howl's Moving Castle is the good first one.
Well, and
It's
you get like some comedy from, is his name Celsius the Fire?
let me double check.
I thought that's what his name was, because it's
Billy Crystal's character, Calcifer.
Calcifer. Well,
Yeah,
same Celsius Calcifer because he's fire. He's like comedic relief a little bit there because you're not expecting a fire to be funny, but he is. He's very enjoyable and he's not over the top funny. That's
yeah.
what I like. He's funny when it needs to be funny, and then he stops, which is
He
great.
he's not obnoxiously Billy
Oh
Crystal.
yeah, no.
and it is worth to mention that is obviously the English version of the film, which
Yes.
is the one that was, I mean, all of the Disney films except for The Boy and the Heron, I believe. Almost all of them have been dubbed by Disney, and you can tell because they got big people.
Oh yeah.
Like the English version of Howl's Moving Castle has Christian Bale in it. It has Billy Crystal. Who else do we have here? It's also got Jenna Malone, Josh Hutcherson, Lauren Bacall, who is like a famous actress from the 50s and 60s. Jean Simmons, another big actress who was older at the time. Like there's a lot of big names in this, and they're not like, some of the
You
other
can't you can't. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say you can't tell that it's them. Like you can hear their voices. Like Christian Bale, yes, because I've heard Christian Bale's voice a lot, but he doesn't take over the character as Christian Bale. He is still Howl when you're watching the movie, which I really enjoy when they pick certain voice actors that have like a specific tone, so you know who it is, but they don't overtake the character itself.
And I think that's not just great about House of the Castle. I think it's just good about all of the Disney dubs, because every character, you just see the character, you hear the character, you don't hear the voice talent, or you don't hear the actor, right? Like I don't look at Howl and go, oh, it's Christian Bale. Yeah, like it sounds like Christian Bale, but it's Howl. I would say like the only Miyazaki film that does feel like that is probably The Boy and the Heron, but that's just because they literally got all the big people they could in that movie, which it's not a bad thing at all, but like it's with this one, it's people who have acting talent as well as popularity, and so I think that really lends itself to not only good vocal performances but also to inhabiting these characters, because these characters are so identifiable. They're wonderfully portrayed by the voice actors in both English and Japanese. And they lend a lot to the film having this whimsical tone, like this kind of fantastical, charming vibe to it. They're a big part of that. And also, I mean, we're a couple, like almost 10 minutes or so into this thing. Like, the film is just gorgeous. But like this, like specifically this film though, because we're talking about the characters, I feel like the characters are so well animated in this one.
They're very crisp. I don't know if that's like even a thing in animation, but they feel not like, I don't know, like they're so bold and vibrant, and then the castle is kind of dull, but that's what it's supposed to look like. And the background doesn't overly bright, like is not too vivid, but it's vivid enough when the castle is walking or anything like that. It's just, it fits this movie perfectly because it wants you to focus on the characters, and what's better than focusing on the characters and having them be more bright or more colorful in some ways than doing more colorful things and having everything else not dulled up, because this movie is beautiful, there's nothing dull about it, but when it gets dark, the darker colors just come in so perfectly. And especially at the end when the war happens and it's dark, gritty, but when Hal flies in, he's a darker color, but he's still like a blue color, and you know that's him. And I love that about any Miyazaki film, Miyazaki film, because it really puts the characters in the forefront and not have the background take advantage of it.
Yeah, and I think that like you're saying, right, the dark colors, there's almost like a warmth and a vibrancy to them, but also like when it is supposed to be, like the castle, right? Like the castle is this fantastic creation, but it's not like well maintained. So when Sophie gets there and starts taking care of it, it starts to feel and look better. But like when it's supposed to be cold and dark, it is, but it's not like just blacks and grays. There's blues, there's browns, there's like all these different colors that they work in so beautifully. And obviously it is based off of a book. I don't know if it's a children's book or like a full novel, but like this feels like a storybook come to life, which I think is perfect for the kind of film that it is.
Yeah. Oh, another thing that at the end of the movie where we get to see how I think he eats a star or something like that. You know which one I'm talking about? Like the very end.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that sequence where he grabs it and then he puts it in his mouth, and but you can still see it glowing down his esophagus and his throat and everything. It's beautiful. Some people would have just been like, "Oh, put like a gulp right there and that's it." But this one one scene where he eats it, but then his silhouette is just black, because and it's just like not like a black, it's like pitch black, but you can still see what he's swallowing. And that's beautiful because we already know who that character is, but why is he doing this is what
Yeah.
I was wanting to know. So that's it's just incredible. Go watch it.
It really is hard to sit here and talk about the movie, right? Because like it is good, and I'm trying to think of like any real criticisms I have, and it's like, you know, maybe I would say, okay, like if I have to nitpick, you know,
Hmm.
I think that this film doesn't have as deep or as layered of a like a deeper meaning or
Hmm.
context that Spirited Away or Princess Mononoke have. I think
Hmm.
that this, I mean, obviously there are deeper layers to the characters and things like that in this movie, and I'm not saying that there are not, but I
Hmm.
think that the reason why I prefer Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke is because they're deeper meanings of man versus nature in Princess
Yeah.
Mononoke, and then obviously independence, but also love in Spirited Away. And so, like, this one, like, it has some of those things, but I just don't think that it's as deep. And I think that that comes from the fact that it is an adaptation and not an original creation of Miyazaki's.
But that's also good because if
Sure.
like if you show this to a kid, they're not going to want to know the meaning of what happened in Spirited Away if they don't understand it.
Yeah.
So in this one, it's like it's I don't want to say it's plain. I keep saying it's plain. It is not plain, but it's very simple for them to sit down and watch it and be like, I understood that. Okay, here we go from there, and not having them think about, so what did they mean by this sentence, or and then that distracts them from the movie.
Yeah. I can see that as well. And I think
Mhm.
that obviously a movie shouldn't be distracting. Like, it shouldn't,
Yeah.
you know, do anything like that. And I don't think that Spirited Away or um, what's it called? Princess Mononoke do distract. I think it just adds something to it. It
Yeah.
adds a little bit more to the film that I really appreciate, and I think is lacking just a little bit
Yeah,
here.
just lacking a little bit depth.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, I think it's pretty clear we both really like this movie, and there's not
Mhm.
a whole lot to talk. I mean, like, it's kind of hard with animated movies, right? Because you can talk about the characters, you can talk about how beautifully it's animated and that, like, and its story, but there's not like a whole lot beyond that when it's just as good as it is. And I hope
Mhm.
we've conveyed enough of why we think this is as good as it is.
Yeah.
I think one last thing I do want to add is that the film really, for lack of a better term, this film is cozy.
Yeah.
This
Oh,
is the
yeah.
kind of movie you put on when it's cold and raining outside, you're drinking a coffee or a tea or maybe some alcohol or something, I don't know.
Mhm.
But then you're under a blanket while it's cold with either just yourself or your loved one, and you're just watching a cozy, comforting movie. And
I could see
so,
myself falling asleep to this, or you know how like Lo-Fi Girl has like her streams going on all the time. There's some other people who have like animated uh soothing music, and then this
mhm,
is the Howl's Moving Castle will be one of them, just walking and going through different parts of the world. That's what I feel like when I watch this. It's so nice and warm feeling that I can watch this and fall asleep to it probably, which you shouldn't,
yeah. Yeah,
but
because you should be watching.
but if you've watched it before, you can.
But I also think, like, too, like, one of the other things I wanted to mention is the music of this movie. The music in this movie is so good.
Oh, it
Obviously, Joe Hisaishi is fantastic as always in his compositions. I think that this is up there with Spirited Away as
mhm.
two of the best pieces of film scoring from animated work
Yeah.
I think it's that good.
It's the thing is the music just fits beautifully in it that we don't even have to talk about the music because it goes with the movie.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah. It's
I mean, you
that's what
point
it
it out
feels.
because it's good, but like you almost don't notice it because it makes everything better. You're
Yeah,
not noticing it because
exactly.
it's better than what it's in, or
Hmm.
that it's worse than what it's in. You're noticing it
Yeah.
because it makes it all work seamlessly together, which is what a film score should do.
Yeah.
Um, but wrapping this up, though, Kevin, this was your pick
Hmm.
this week, so I'll go ahead and go first. For me, actually, is it you that goes? I'm like completely blanking right
I
now.
think it's you go first because I
That's
I picked the movie.
that's what I thought. But for me, I gave the film a 95 out of 100, 4.5 stars out of 5 on Letterboxd. I think that this film is fantastic. I think it's beautiful and exquisitely crafted with great characters and a great sense of the whimsical and the charming quality that a lot of the Miyazaki films have. But I think this one is the best example of a purely whimsical, charming, not without its dark moments, but
Mhm.
one that is just about comfy vibes. And so for that, 95 out of 100, 4.5 stars out of 5. But what about you,
Yep.
Kevin?
What I gave it was 94 out of 100 with 4.5 stars. We got close on this one. But I loved how, I mean, again, beautifully animated movie. And every character has its own, like, I don't want to say vibe because that just sounds too millennial, but like own, like characteristics, own.
Sure.
So I don't know what I'm trying to say, but but it and that's what I like about animation films because they can separate between actor and voices, and this one felt like everybody was having fun while doing it, and you can tell when that happens as well. But just go watch the movie, just go watch it because
Yeah.
that's what this is about. Go watch it.
Just go watch it. As
Hmm.
simple as that. So the question now falls to you. What do you think of Howl's Moving Castle? We'd love to hear what you think down in the comment section down below. But remember to be respectful of one another because one of you could be a witch and put a curse on the other. Next week, I'm so excited. We are covering the iconic musical classic Singing in the Rain. So make sure to watch it before next week so you're not spoiled. It is available on HBO Max at the time of recording right now. And then, yeah, we're excited to talk about that one. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to us here at Real Watchers on YouTube. We have our live stream that goes live every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And these Movie Club episodes go live every Friday. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single one of them. But again, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, keep those eyes on the screen.